My time at that firm taught me process equals predictability and opportunity. That was when I understood the path is in the math. And actually there's peace in that, because if you can wake up and go to work every day and know exactly what to do to win, then I can go home at night and go, I did what I was supposed to do. It's easy to succeed when you know what the process is and when you attach metrics, and that gives you predictability, which gives you peace. There's peace in predictability and chaos otherwise.
I'm on the quest for peace. Friends, I hear it all the time. I want to be happier. I want to be richer. Some say they want to be better looking. I don't suffer from that. But in the end, isn't it peace? Aren't we all just looking for peace? We want to find some semblance of it in our lives. And for this team hailing out of Greater Sacramento and Tahoe, they think peace comes from process, which leads to predictability, which ultimately gives peace. You see, they believe that predictable results allows people to live in peace, and anything other than that has complete chaos. Friends, they sell more than 210 units a year for over 135 million in volume. The More Real Estate Group has two things that every agent should have. Number one, absolute certainty on where they're going, and number two, a process on bringing people in and getting them into production that can't be beat. You're about to hear directly from Shelby Ryburn. She has built, with her partners, a juggernaut. And when I tell you that it's going to sound too simple to believe, I promise you it is. Sit back and buckle up. This is Shelby Ryburn. I am joined by a dear friend, Shelby Ryburn. Shelby, how are you?
Jason, I'm so good. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. Okay. I ask everyone the same question to start. How, my dear, did you end up in the greatest industry in the world?
Gosh, there is quite a story there, but I would say it would be from college dropout to knowing nothing else than a traditional plan and figuring out how to be an entrepreneur.
Okay, let's unpack one at a time. So in order to become a dropout, you had to get in. Which college did you matriculate into?
I attended Azusa Pacific University, which is in Southern California.
Okay, and is this academic university or they call it a party school? That's what the kids call it.
Yeah, that would not be considered a party school. I went on a music scholarship, and it's actually a private Christian university.
Okay, tell us more about the music. What's your instrument of choice?
So my dad actually in a prior life was a lounge singer. And so anything that came up in the house that sounded like a song, he would just sing instead of speak. And so my sisters and I kind of grew up in that environment and sort of followed that course. And my parents put us into piano, and then we sang in the church worship band and all those things. And that's how that transpired. It was never meant to be like my trajectory or my path. But to this day, music moves me. So that's what it was about.
I play a mean jazz flute.
Oh, well, do you? I hear that they're casting for that in movies from time to time.
Just throwing that out there. Okay, so college isn't for you.
No, wasn't for me.
What happens next?
I decided that I needed to figure out what life meant for me. So purpose was sort of the underlying factor in kind of the discovery of my path to real estate. So I wound up working at a property management company for about 5 years.
Okay, wait a second. Unpack that for me, because when I think about property management, I mean, you're going to hear a show with Gaurav coming up here where he manages 6,000 homes. It's incredible. But when I think about property management, I think of professional problem solver, firefighter who only works for arsonists. You did it for 5 years.
Yeah. And in California, it is a different beast. In fact, Gaurav won't come to California because of it. But yeah, I did it for 5 years. I just actually was going to move to Canada, and that is a story for another day, Jason. And I needed a temporary job, and I was 20 years old, and I was trying to discover what my life was supposed to be about and what I was made for and who I was. And yet I just needed a temporary job before moving to Canada. So I got placed at a property management company, which wound up opening a lot of doors for me. I literally was placed there to answer the phones, be the receptionist, right, for a certain period of time, a few months. And I will say, as I was trying to discover my purpose, maybe my first lesson was that what my parents had instilled was a very strong work ethic and a strong commitment. So while I did not come from a family of entrepreneurs, in fact, I had no visibility into any entrepreneurship endeavors, but I did have parents who went to work every day, and that was the environment that I knew. produced a good home for me. And so they just instilled kind of some of those lessons that I think turned out to look like work ethic and commitment and loyalty. And then my curiosity was piqued, because what's funny is I don't feel like I was turned on in college. Like nothing made sense to me because I couldn't figure out what it was leading to. But once I got myself in a work environment, I didn't want to just know how to answer the phones. I wanted to know what that person was doing and that person was doing and how that person was doing what they were doing. And so I found out that I'm actually exceptionally learning-based, and that curiosity is probably a common thread of what has driven who I am today. And so I just became exceptionally curious. And in 4 years, by 24 years old, I was running the Modesto office of a property management company based out of San Francisco.
Okay, so now you're crushing it. You're running property management. What happens next?
Then I had a life change, which is part of that story for another day, and decided that I needed to spread my wings. I was still in my hometown, and I really needed to discover who I was outside of the environment that I was in. And so I moved back to LA because it was kind of a comfort zone. I'd gone to college there, had friends there, had a great church there, all those things. And I was referred to someone who had been in the real estate business for 28, 29 years. And she and I met and like fell in love with each other in 10 minutes, right? Just really socially interacted very well, pretty easily and quickly. And I decided to get into real estate at that time because the parallels between property management and then real estate made sense. And so I got into that for a period of time, which did not end up being anything more than a learning opportunity at the time. The alignment was not parallel. And so learned a lot of lessons, and that sent me a different direction, which actually is why I'm so passionate about building teams now, because of what I was exposed to and learned then.
Well, the team that y'all have built, 210 units, 134 million and growing. The More Real Estate Group is growing quickly. So when do you launch that business?
So I actually got into financial services while I was down in Southern California, and with a big Fortune 100 company, financial services firm. And they were very good at training me corporately, right? Like everything they do had a plan. Everything had a strategy. There was a leadership team. There were leadership meetings. There were metrics that had to be met and outcomes that had to be achieved. And so that same curiosity, Jason, showed up in this season because I just was like intent on trying to figure out how to be better or improve or do more. And so I joined this company in recruiting and was recruiting college kids into an internship program. And I would say, hey, you're going to join this top 10 internship program. And then I would plant them in that, and it wasn't led very well. So then I'd take that over and I'd be like, well, let me help you, right? And then that became a series of just taking on more tasks. At the time, I wasn't married, I didn't have any kids. I could work myself to death, which is part of the story. I actually did. And so I spent 7 years with them. They moved me to Charlotte, North Carolina, where I oversaw what's called the Core Four, which was recruiting, internship program, training and development for under 5-year sales reps who make 100% commission, just like in real estate, and their leadership development program for 10 offices in 2 states. And I will tell you that what I learned there is, you know how Gary always says the path is in the math? I learned that it's easy to succeed when you know what the process is and when you attach metrics, and that gives you predictability, which gives you peace. And so during that time, they said, well, Shelby, I need you to make 20 contacts a day and schedule 2 appointments a day and get 2 referrals a day. It was a really high volume business. And when I was recruited to join them in the Carolinas, I had already been successful with them in Southern California. But my managing partner was like, I want you to text me your metrics every day. And to be honest with you, Jason, us entrepreneurs don't really like accountability. I was like, what? You want me to do what? Like, you brought me here after I already sort of made a name for myself over here. But that wound up helping me see how accountability can change your trajectory, because that was like curiosity equaled opportunity, and then accountability equaled opportunity. And so there were 300 plus offices in the company, and we wound up number 1 in recruiting under my watch, probably because he did not let me not text him my numbers every day. And that led to significant growth. So that was when I understood the path is in the math. And actually there's peace in that, because if you can wake up and go to work every day and know exactly what to do to win, then I can go home at night and go, I did what I was supposed to do, and this is going to work in my favor. And I think sometimes in real estate, a lot of people go, well, I hope I'm doing the right things, right? That equate to what I'm here to do. And yet a lot of entrepreneurs just run, until they hit their ceiling, and then they don't know what to do.
By the way, if you're new to the show, when we're talking about Gary, we're talking about Gary Keller. And together with Jay Papasan and Dave Jenks, they wrote the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, which of course is the namesake for the show. I was talking to Gary yesterday, and we were talking about why some folks feel the need to work 23 of the 24 hours in a day. And he said oftentimes it's because they don't actually believe that what they're doing will get them the thing they want to have. And so absent of believing that, they just keep doing stuff, but busyness doesn't mean business.
No, it doesn't. And I think a lot of us have to fail through that. I certainly did, because I actually left that company 7 years in because I was having all kinds of health problems. I was actually pregnant with my first child, and it was at an OB appointment where she was just talking to me and saying, how are you doing? And I was saying, well, I'm throwing my back out like every other day. Like I'll just get up out of a chair and my back will totally go out. And my stomach is having all of these issues. Like it just hurts all the time. And now I feel like I'm having these chest pains pretty significantly and pretty commonly. And she was like, Shelby, that's like, your body trying to say, hey, something's wrong. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like I just, we have learned at KW that leverage is a thing, but I think sometimes you have to fail through that, because you do think, well, I just have to do more. I do have to work 23 hours out of 24 hours to get where I need to go. And some of us are built with this like it's never enough mindset. And I don't know where that comes from. We probably all need therapy, but a lot of us as entrepreneurs are designed and built that way. And sometimes we have to really fail through that in order to learn the lesson from it. And I certainly had to do that. But my time at that financial services firm taught me process equals predictability and opportunity. And I think the other thing I learned there that maybe a lot of team owners don't learn, not a lot of people have recruiting experience. I was taught to attract and select through like a multi-step interview process, not just recruit. Like recruiting was basically my one thing at that job. But I was taught to take people through 5, 6, 7, 8 interviews in order to select the right people. And that has been probably one of the core competencies that has enabled us at the More Real Estate Group to succeed, is because we know to take people through an interview process if we're hiring administrative roles. But every single agent or showing partner that has joined our team has gone through the exact same process as well. And I teach CV around the country, and I teach business planning clinic around the country. And often what I hear from team owners is, oh, well, I career vision our ops team, but I don't career vision agents. And I think to myself, you would never get married without first dating someone. So why would you have an agent join your team not knowing whether they're in alignment with the expectations and the culture, right?
Well, let me give you the answer, because I've had, luckily for me, I've had a bunch of people on my couch and I've gotten to psychoanalyze all of them. And so a lot of times people will say, especially in the brokerage business, look, I don't know who's going to be successful. I know that sometimes they might look like they're going to be great and then they're not. And then other people come in and you just don't know who's going to bear out in the end. So anyone that can fog a mirror, we take, and then we just let the habits weed them out. How do you think about that?
I think that you either date after you get married or you date before you get married. And typically you have more sustainability and longevity when you choose to date before you get married, and less frustration and stress. And when you have people who fit the bill, right, they enhance the culture that you already have, versus attracting people who may not be the right match, who bring the culture down or bring the level of productivity down because they're not adding to it, because your approach to it is just seeing who sticks. So we just take a lot more caution and planning because of my background of learning about all those things and what that can do for an organization, because it served me well in that environment. We became number one there. And I think that that's what enabled us to grow so quickly at the More Real Estate Group too.
Okay, well, let's get into this thing and let's unpack exactly how to do it. So, gang, you know what time it is. We're about to unpack the model. So you don't have to take the notes. I'm taking the notes. Go to MREAnotes.com. That's MREAnotes.com, and you will get the notes come out on Thursday. They come in an email. It's a PDF. The people love it, Shelby. Let's jump into this thing. Shelby, tell me exactly then how to build an organization that's going to provide me peace.
So I just think there's peace and predictability and chaos otherwise. And so when my partners, Brian and Ricky, and I came together, they had a group of people that were hanging around them, i.e. their team, for quite some time. But the three of us are wired very differently. And it's been fun to have two business partners because we all have different gifts. And yet I came to them with very sort of a corporate mindset. I had also just come out of being a team leader and an area director and all these things, right? And so I think that for us, we knew that we needed to grow with the right people. And so we sort of raised the standards and had to rebuild the team. And so from that point forward, we knew that we had a certain amount of agents that we wanted to attract. And for us, building a team isn't about making more money. For us, building a team is because we love people. We love to help people grow. We love to apply systems and standards that enable them to achieve more than they ever thought they could. And that's what lights us up. And so we just began the process of attraction and took people through a selection process called career visioning.
Wait a minute, because I know. If I'm out there driving, I'm like, okay, what even is a process of attraction? Because I wake up every day trying to recruit and I'm having a hard time. So tell me, Shelby, let's start with number one. How do you attract people?
Well, I think you have to tell your story.
What does that mean?
People still join people. Like, people have options out there. You go and you say, hey, I want to get a real estate license. And you go to school and you go through the process and you're going to get mailers from every single company out there, right? And you have options. So the question is, what story does your company tell? Because they all tell a different story. So who is the More Real Estate Group, and how do we make sure that people know who we are and what we're about and how we do what we do?
So what's the answer to that? How do you do it?
The answer to that is we direct people to our reviews. We have more than 385 five-star reviews online that will tell people what our clients say about how we do what we do, right? Not just what we do. And then we have videos on our YouTube channel that show people who we are. And what I mean by that is once every other year, we take our team down to Mexico to build a house together. Like, we just do mission work together. Because I think that type of experience bonds people in a different way. And it also enables us to get outside of just what's for us, right? Like building a career, making money, all those things are for us. And I think what keeps us grounded is doing things that are for other people. And so it has been probably the best thing we've done as a team. And we make sure to tell that story because that's who we are. And not everybody will fit that, and that's okay. But we're not for everybody. We are for the people who align with who we are. And so I think telling your story is really important. And there are a couple things that do that. It's your numbers, it's your results. We're proud to be number one in our market and have been for 3 years. I don't intend to lose that footing by the grace of God and our strategy and plan. And so that tells a story. Our per agent productivity tells a story, which, by the way, one of the ways that you maintain a high per agent productivity is by selecting the right people, not just people with oxygen. And then telling who you are as a people culturally. And so I think that that's what I mean by attract. And then you select by taking them through a multi-step interview process.
Okay, I got attract, now select. You're going to take them through this multi-step process. It sounds like the goal is to weed out the wrong folks.
100%. I mean, in some ways, I try to talk people out of joining us as I navigate through the process. And what I've found is those who are desperate to join us are commonly not the right folks for us. It doesn't mean that that's an automatic. I just mean the process enables us to get to know the person. And one of the things that I think is really important is we coach to standards and people. Meaning we have standards of production here. And I think when someone walks in my office to coach with me, if I just say, hey, how are you? We're going to get off on a tangent and talk about how their weekend was or their week was or, something that doesn't feel good or whatever for the entire half-hour session. But most people know that they walk in my office and we're going to talk about the work first. Like, did you do the work that will give you the best outcomes? And that goes back to the path and the math.
Well, let's hit that. What are the standards?
Well, let me give you an example. And I always use her as an example, and I'm not sure why. But Katie joined us after 1 year in the business at a traditional brokerage. And that traditional brokerage taught her a lot about like the contract and the rules and the standards of the industry. Like, she was mentored. She wasn't coached. She was mentored. And so she had closed 5 or 6 pieces of business in her first year, which isn't bad since she never even really knew what lead generation was. And that's what I mean by mentored versus coached, right? She wasn't taught how to build a business or generate clientele. And so when she came to me, I said, if we're sitting down 1 year from today talking about your first year with us, what do you want to do? And she said, I want to close 25 units. And I said, well, going from 5 to 25 in a year is a big jump. And the only way I knew how to help her was to reverse engineer the numbers. So what we did is we took that goal of 25 and we opened up the MREA book, and the MREA book gives you an equation. And what that meant for her is that she had to dial the phone 45 times because only 9 people would pick up and have a conversation with her.
By the way, gang, if you're going to be dialing, do it in a TCPA-friendly and compliant way. Follow all the rules.
100%. And she was really just calling all the people that she knew, right?
So 40 a day meant she was going to talk to 9 people a day.
45 a day only meant nine conversations, right? But if she had 9 conversations every day, that would yield 2 appointments a week. And if she had 2 appointments a week, she'd close 25 deals that year. Well, what I did was I said, okay, Katie, every time we coach, I'm going to ask you how you win. And your answer is 45-9. And I don't ever want to hear another answer aside from 45-9. So if I see you at the grocery store 3 months from now on aisle 9 and I say, hey, how do you win? The answer needs to be 45-9, because I want you to let go of the outcome. Because I think that people get really stressed and anxious about the outcome. When in reality, and this is why I think there's peace in the plan, all they have to worry about is coming in and making 45 dials, because that will give you 9 contacts, which will give you 2 appointments a week. Let go of the rest. Don't worry about it, right? And if you're done, at 1 o'clock with 9 contacts, or 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock with 9 contacts, and you don't have an appointment that afternoon, like, go jump in the pool and have a margarita. I don't know. You did what you were supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, let go of the rest. Don't apply additional pressure. And she wound up closing 37 transactions that year.
Gosh, what a year. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so what I mean by that is we coach to the standards first and then the person. So when we coach, the person shows up and we talk about 45-9 and how they did and if there were any gaps and how they can improve. Because my job is to help people succeed. If my job was only to love them, then they're not going to make it in the business, right? My job is to help you succeed first and love you through it. At the same time, there's another example of a gal that walked in my office, Jason, and I will never forget this. It probably changed me just as much as it changed her. For one of our coaching sessions, and I coached the standards first and the person second. And I said, hey, how are you? And she goes, fine.
Oh.
And I go, well, when are you going to let your face know? That's what I said, right? Which threw her off. And I closed my binder. That day was not the day to talk about activity and standards. She needed something different, right? And we actually ended up, my partners and I ended up sending her to Landmark Forum, and she discovered a bunch of stuff that she needed to let go of and came back and had the best 4 months of production in her career.
Wow.
So, Jordan Fried has taught me performance equals potential minus interference.
Say it again.
Performance equals potential minus interference. Every one of us have natural gifts. Every one of us have potential. And I think it's important to stay focused. That's why we coach to standards first. But if there is some interference that is inhibiting you from doing the things that we need to do, then we got to talk about that first. We got to get that out of the way when that's relevant, right? And I think that that's one of the things that I learned when I was in corporate America. I was trained as a coach then, and I learned that the perfect coach is a balance of challenge and support. And the reality is, for most of us that played a sport growing up, we probably had coaches that were all challenge and no support. And we probably had coaches that were all fluff. And neither one works, right? The one coach that I played for that was all challenge and no support, I made varsity basketball my freshman year of high school. And while my mother tried to instill in me, do what you say you're going to do and you can't back out on your commitments, the experience was so awful. I just felt demeaned every single day. Because that coach, all they knew was be hard, be hard, be hard, be tough, be tough, be tough. And you don't usually get out of someone's potential when you behave that way. Conversely, I was watching my sweet 9-year-old girl's softball team, and she had a coach that was all fluff and was like, "It's okay, girls, you'll do better next time." And, didn't challenge them, didn't work on their skills, was just like, "I'm glad you have a cute bow in your hair." And I was like, oh my word, right? So my point is, we've all seen both. We've seen the people, the coaches, the business coaches in life that are all challenge and all support, and neither one works. And so we really try to balance both, which means that I'm going to coach to the standard first and the person second.
It's pretty incredible, right? You attract them, you select them, and then you're coaching them, and you're letting them decide the amount of money they want. You're then backing into the number of contacts that they have to make, and then you're putting extraordinary pressure on the lead measure. And you're not talking much about the lag measure unless it's just not happening over a period of time.
Yeah, because data tells you what needs work, right? Without data, we don't know where the gaps are. And all of our team members, they know we'll get in the trench with them. As long as they tell me the truth about their numbers, I'm willing to get into the interference with them. But it really is just a numbers game. And I just think that gives you so much more peace.
So it's attract, to select, and then accountability. Is it really that simple, Shelby? Is it 3 things?
I honestly think that it is. And you have to keep the bench warm and just keep people coming into that environment that are matched for that want that type of ecosystem.
What's the sweet spot for number of agents in your organization?
Candidly, Jason, sometimes we waffle between wanting to maintain our culture and staying smaller so that we can remain more intimately connected to one another, and realizing that also impacts profitability. And so we actually just hired someone to recruit. So I would say for us, 10 to 15 producing agents is our sweet spot, but I don't think we have a goal to do much more than that.
Got it. Here's the thing. I could keep asking questions, but the truth is that would complicate it. I think what you're saying, and if I get it wrong, tell me, I have to find a way to attract people, and that's going to be through the person with the best story wins. Then I got to weed out, which is I got to make sure that I get the ones that want to live this certain way into the organization and then release everybody else back to the wild.
Yes, that's right.
And then whoever joins has to choose what they want, be willing and understand the math, and then you're going to hold a mirror up in front of them every time you meet, which is once a week, until they either opt out or live up.
And we don't ever stop coaching them, right? Our veteran agents that have been with us for 5+ years still get coached once a week, still get developed. And I don't think that will ever change. And, if I can just jump back to the selection part, if you meet someone for 5-10 minutes, even a half hour once, and then you decide that you want to work together, I just don't think that you've uncovered how to properly coach someone. So part of the selection process of going through multiple interviews is such that you have permission to speak into their life when they show up and have a hard day. Because if you don't know them well enough, what permission do you have to speak to their interference, right? So part of that is just relationship permission. And believe it or not, I have taken someone through 4 or 5 interviews and then opted not to have them join us. And that is a win for them and a win for us.
I love it. Shelby, all right, last question for me. I look up right now. I have an organization that's not living in standard. It didn't live in select. And how I got here is now I have a group of people. Everyone's doing what they're doing. I call it a glob, a group of agents connected by my credit card. What would you do? What would you do to clean up the mess?
We've all been there, and it's never too late to start. And maybe I'll answer that question with an example. When the market shifted, because it did, and we all know it, right? I felt it in like April of 2022 when I was on vacation in Florida. I was like, something's different. And when I came back, we sort of lived in that something's different space for a few months. But I will never forget that in August of that month, we decided to change the standards of our team. Because when you employ standards, we have to remember that that's for them, not against them. Meaning, some of us team leaders or rainmakers or team owners think that standards will do nothing but create fear in people who maybe aren't accustomed to them. And remember, I alluded to Katie, who like her job was 9 contacts a day. Well, guess what? In August of 2022, we came to the team and we said, hey, we need to raise the bar to 20 contacts a day for every single person on this team, because my job is to keep you in this business and not be one of the ones that doesn't know how to stay in it when it gets hard, right? And so what I would say is don't be afraid to create standards, even if you never have, because you have to remember that that's for them. If I'm not thinking about what is required to keep them in the business and fuel them every day and give them life and energy and joy in the life that I want them to live, then I'm thinking of accountability in the wrong way, and I'm thinking of standards in the wrong way. It is for them, and our people get that.
You know, I listen to you, Shelby. Whether you're in Mexico with your team building houses or you're meeting one-on-one, you are doing God's work. You're changing lives at scale. And I, for one, am so grateful that you're in the world. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Jason. I pray that never stops. That's what fuels me. That's why I do what I do.
There it is, gang. You heard it here. Shelby, thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Jason.
I'm not going to wax poetically on what she said because you just heard it. Here's what I'm going to tell you. She's right. If you don't have a way that, number one, you're attracting people into your business, number two, you're putting them through a process to select the ones that are going to succeed, and number three, you're not holding them accountable to a standard, you're not going to grow like they do. The way she has clarity is inspiring, sure, but think about what she's clear on. Number one, the person or team with the best story wins. Here's my question. When you go out to attract people to you, and I don't care whether you're attracting buyers and sellers or other agents to your brokerage or other agents to your team, what's the story you're telling and what's the evidence that the things you're doing actually provides the result that the end user is looking for? Number two, how are you selecting? Friends, I was once told if everybody is your perfect client, then no one is your perfect client. Do you know what it takes to succeed in your organization? Do you know what kind of buyer and seller you want to work with? Do you know what kind of agent is going to make it with you and make you feel good about your life every day? If you don't, and you'll take anybody that can fog a mirror, you're not going to have the results that Shelby and her team are having with so few people. That's not to say it can't be done. It is to say that when you weed out those that won't do the work, you're going to be left with those that will. And for Shelby, that's the only kind of organization she could work in. And then number three, how do you hold people accountable? When she said that when you set standards, it's not to them, that it's for them, standards are the gift that allow people to maximize their potential, I thought that was sheer brilliance. But here's her thing. She's not setting a blanket standard across the team. She's meeting with each agent to figure out what their financial goals are, then understands the financial model as laid out in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, works backwards to the number of deals they need to do, works backwards to the number of appointments they need to have, works backwards to the number of contacts that they have to make, and that becomes what she's focusing on. You know, in life, you either think about the lead measure or the lag measure. If you said to me, Jason, I want to lose 10 pounds, friends, that's the lag measure. I would say to you, great, how often are you going to move your body and how many calories are you going to eat? That would be the lead measure. Shelby is crystal clear on one thing. We coach because we love people, but if we love people, we have to coach. And coaching means holding them in reality long enough to appreciate their circumstance and then asking every single week, are you doing the actions it's going to take to improve that circumstance? Ask yourself this. When you sit down with your people, are you as clear on the outcome as Shelby is? Do you care enough about them to be unmovable when it comes to the numbers? You know what Gary Keller told me once? He said, Jason, if the goals are immovable, the only thing you can change are the people. And you have to love people enough to live with the goals. Go forth and do likewise.